All right, we're back online for the second half of the service. We're going to read Deuteronomy, the 14th chapter. First in Hebrew, and we'll read it in English. Deuteronomy 14 and 1. Which starts off with Bunyam. Bunyam. All right, so Bunyam, a thumb la Yahweh Alahayakam, la'a tathaga dadwa, wala'a tasha yamwa, koraka bunyan, ayanyakam lamath. Verse 2. Kaya ain quada wash, atha la Yahweh Alahayaka, wabaka, bakar Yahweh lahayawath, lawa la'ain, Saga law Mako Ha'ayim Ashra Ayel Panya Ha'adamah. Verse 3. Let's be the goat. Verse 3. Thako Ko Thawa Aiba. Verse 4. Za'ath Habama. Pardon me, Asherah, Tha'akowa, Shawar, Shah, Kashabium, Washah, Izium, verse 5. Ayol, Watazabia, Waya Kama War, Wa Aqua, Wadaya Shun, Wa Thawa, Waza Mar, verse 6. Wakol Bama Mapa Rasath Para Washa Sa'ith Sai Salat. This would be Washa Saitha. Is that what you got? No, the one before it. Washa. Is that what it? Washa Sa'ith? And then it has, is it Washa Washai or Washa I? Sa'ai, okay. Shasa'ai Shathya Pa Raswath Ma'ailath Gara Baba Babama Tha Tha'a Kolwa, verse 7. Ak Ath Za La'ab Tha'a Kolwa Mama Alia Hagara Wama Mara Salat. Wama Mapara Yaiswa Salat. Wamama Para Yasya. Hapara Sa Hashai Salat. That's an interesting word. Hashais. Hasha. So Aiha Ath Haga Mo Wa Ath Hara Salak Ha'ara Nabath Wa Ath Hasha Pun Kaya Ma'ailah Gara Hama Wapara Sa. Actually, those should be Rasha. Should be Rasha. Is that what you got? Rasha? Wapara Rasha?
I don't have a one.
No, Wapara Saha.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Yeah. La'a Hapara Yaswa Tamayim lakam, verse 8. Wa'ath haka ziyar kaya mapara yas para sa hawa'a wala'a gara tamar hawa'a lakam maba sharam la'a tha'akowa wabana botham la'a tharat thagaiwa, verse 9. Ath za tha'akowa mako ashara bama yum ko ashara lawa sana pa yar wakwa shath tha'akowa, verse 10. Wako ashara ayan lawa sana payar wakwa shakshath la'a tha'akowa tamar hawa'a lakam, verse 11. Ko tazapawar tahara tha'akowa, verse 12. Waza ashra la'a tha'akowa maham hana shar waha paras waha I zanyaha, verse 13. Wahara or wa'ath ya waha the ya lama yanha, verse 14. Wa'ath ko irab lama yanwa, verse 15. Wa'ath bath haya aina wa'ath hathaka mas wa'ath hasha kap wa'ath hana taza lama ya nawa, verse 16. Ath haka was wa'ath haya nashwap waha thanash math. So you get into the different names of these animals, right? Verse 17. Wa'ath wa'ath hara kama wa'ath hasha lak, verse 18. Wahaka siyad wahaka sa yadada waha Nepal lama yana wahada wak yapath wahai talap, verse 19. Wako Sharataza, Ha'ai Wap, Tama, Hawa'a, Lakam, La'a, Ya'a, Kowa, verse 20. Ko, I Wap, Taha, War, Tha'a Kowa, verse 21. La'a, Tha'a Kowa, Ko, Nabala, Lagar, Ashara, Basha, Aryaka, Thathana, Wa'akala or Makar Lana Karya Kaya Ain Quada Wash Athar La Yahawa Alahayaka La'a Thaba Sho Gadya Bakalab Amawa, verse 22. Aishara Ath Ko Thabawa Ath Zaraika Haya Tazar Haya Salak Hasha Da Shana, verse 23. Wa Akalath Lapanya Yahweh Alahayaka Bama Kwum Mashra Yabakar Lasha Kun Shamwa Sham Ma'aishara Gada Salak Ga Da Gunka Faya Rashka Waya Taza Harka Wabaka Rath Ba Korka Wataza Anka Lama Ain Fala Mad Layara Or Ath Yahweh Alahayaka Ko Haya Wumyum, verse 24. Waya Wakaya Yara Ba Mamunka Salak Mumka Hada Rock Kaya La'a Thawa Ko Sha'afwa Kaya Yara Kwak Mumka Hamakwa Wum Ashara Yabakar Yahweh Alahayaka Lasha Wum Shamwa Sham Kaya Yaba Rakka Yahweh Alahayaka. Verse 25. Wanatha Tha Baka Sap Wasa Salak Wataza Rath Haka Sap Bayadka Wahala Ko Wahala Kath O Hamakwa Wum Ashra Yaba Kar Yahweh Alahayaka Bawa. Verse 26. Wanath Tha Haka Sap Bako Ashra Ta'awa Napashka Baba Kor Waba Tazaan Waba Yayun Waba Shakar Waba Ko Ashra Dasha Olka Napashka Wa'aka Lath Shum Lapunya Yahweh Alahayaka Washama Kath Atha Waba Yathka. Verse 27. Waha Lawyer Levite. Wahaloya Ashra Basha Aryaka La'a Thaiza Bunwa Kaya Ayan Lawa Kalak Wana Kala Imka. Verse 28. Makwa Taza Shalash Shunyum Thawa Tazaya Athko Ma'ashara Thabawa Athka Bashana Hahawa'a Wahana Kath Basha Aryaka. Verse 29, last verse. Waba'a Haloya. Again. Kaya Ayan Loa Kalak Wana Kala Anka Wahagar Wahaya Wahaya Thawum Wahala Mana Ashra Basha Aryaka Wa'a Kowa Washaba Salak Washabaiwa Lama'ain Yaba Raka Yahweh Alhayaka Bakol Ma'aisha Yadka Ashra Ta'aisha. Huh? You said it says proselyte?
When you get with the seed, talk about the widow.
All right. So now we'll read it in the English. Deuteronomy 14:1 now. So it says, ye are the children of the Lord your God. You shall not cut yourselves nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead. Right. So the Most High tells us that we are a separate people. Right. We're separate from everybody else. So in the previous chapter, we read about how we had, or when we was reading Joshua, or Judges, I should say, how we had other nations that was amongst us, that was around us, that dwelt in the same land that we were in. But they follow after other gods, following after other customs. So the Lord says that we're supposed to be different from everybody else, right? So you can write down Leviticus, the 19th chapter. Leviticus, the 19th chapter, and the 20. No, that's not the one I want. I want Leviticus 20. And Leviticus 20. And I'm going to come back to 19, but I want Leviticus 20 and 26. So Leviticus 20 and 26 says, and ye shall be holy unto me, right? With a colon after the end, right? So we know holy to mean pure, right? To be clean, right? Righteous. But it says, ye shall be holy unto me, colon, for I am the Lord, am holy. For I, the Lord, am holy, and have severed you from other people that ye should be mine, right? So the Lord who created all nations took one nation and severed or cut us off from everybody else and said, now you are mine as a nation, as a people. So now we are made holy by the instructions and the precepts and the commandments and the statutes that the Most High has just given to us exclusively, right? So now everybody else does their own thing. The Lord is aware of some of these practices that they do. So in the law, he has certain things that would be an influence or a snare unto us throughout the generations, that we are reminded not to do those things. There's other things and other practices that certain nations and cultures do that's not specifically called out, but there are some that's called out that that's what we're reading right now, right? So he says that he has severed us from the other people. So now, as we read, it says, ye shall, back in Deuteronomy 14 and 1, ye shall not cut yourselves, nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead, right? So when you go into it, the customs of some of the nations, the Hamites and others, was that when someone died, they would cut markings and things in their flesh, baldness on their head as part of their custom, right? So the Most High was aware of what they did. Some of the times we are not aware of the origins of the things that we do, right? So when we get tattoos in our flesh, it started from something. It wasn't just, oh, I want to get an eagle, I want to get a bird. It morphed into that. But it started with this custom that the nations did for those who died. And it wasn't just like a nice bird or a thing. It was like a marking that they cut deep into their flesh, whether it was on their face or their arms or whatever. Sometimes they would do it for a kill that they did. You could look at a person's face like, man, look at all the marks all on his face. You know, went and killed all these men. Or this person has some markers on their flesh for their mother or their father or their person that was akin to them. They put that in them. Right? So the Lord said, don't do that. Right? Remember, I've separated you from everybody else. Now, if you go start doing that, what's going to happen? People are going to start thinking that you are that people. You are part of them. You are part of them. You are part of that custom, that culture. You're not Israel. You're them. So now, even today, some of us, you know, align or attach ourselves to Egyptology. Right? So now we're following after the customs of the Egyptians. We're calling ourselves the Egyptians. So to separate us, the Lord said, well, if you are one of mine, if you are a real Christian, because you'll have people who are in some of these mainstream churches who will say both. I'm a Christian, but I'm Egyptian, right? Well, in the Most High's Bible, in the word of the Lord, if you are a Christian, if you are a person of Israel, you are a child of God, then you wouldn't be doing with the same practices those Egyptians do, or those Ethiopians do, or this people over here do. Right. You wouldn't be following that because I'm exclusively putting that in the scriptures to not do that, right? So markings in your flesh and making your head bald for the dead, that's another custom or practice that people do for out of mourning, right? The Lord said, don't do that. We've had people die and we mourn for them in our own way, but we don't go out there and do those practices that they do. So now you can go back to Leviticus 19. Leviticus 19 and 28. Like on your head. It's really talking about your head.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm big.
Yeah.
Some people do have little hair right here.
Yeah, like a unibrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Adam friend.
Yeah.
Or they wax it, do a facial or something like that.
Yeah. And one more thing, you see the kids today, when they want to let you know that they killed somebody,
They put the teardrop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that might have something to do with
Yeah.
it.
I mean, it's a part of that custom of putting marks. You know, whether someone died or you kill somebody, right? It's like I said, it has morphed into other different things. Same thing like Christmas, right? You got the Christmas tree, and you have, you know, people bring certain things to it, but then you have other traditions that have added on to it. So now you have a log, a Yule log, and a mistletoe that have their own origins. But now when you come up into today's time, people now add other new traditions on top of it. Right, because man is always thinking of new things and new things to do, so they add another thing on it, right? So instead, we're not just going to have a tree; we're going to have a bush or something like that, right? Some new thing that somebody want to do. I got a whole bunch of things in my front yard, or I got all of this in there. Now I got the sleigh, right? And I got all this stuff that I'm adding on top of it. Right. And you're like, okay, but what's the base origin of this thing? And then you can see what it has become over the generations to where it is now. Right. That's kind of the premise of it. But when you look at the root of it, is to say the Lord said, just don't do this. Don't follow their ways. He's given us what we're supposed to do. Let's do that. Right. And some people say, okay, yeah, I see that, but you know, this seems cool too. Let's get this 100%. Right. And then we can look at and see what they do that may be okay. Like, because there's certain things that nations do or heathens do that's in line with what we do. That's cool. It's like, all right, that's, you know, I get that. That's fine. We do the same thing, right? You may have some nations that say, listen, we cook our meat. Ain't no blood running into my meat, right? And you be like, oh, okay, that's how we do. That's what the Most High say do. So I don't feel no way when you talk about I go to this restaurant where it's a heathen's restaurant and you want to go eat. Okay, cool. I know that they cook their food or they deal with this. Or like if I go to an Elamite restaurant, right, or East Indian restaurant, and I'm going to go get some food, I know that they don't deal with pork, right? They ain't going to cook no pork up in there. So I ain't got to worry about that. I haven't seen any shrimps up in there, crustaceans up in there like that. So I'm cool with that. They don't eat beef either, right? Because of their own religious practice, but that's fine, right? I'll get some lamb. I'll get some chicken, right? They'll have some fish, right? So, okay, cool. I can now go and look and investigate what type of fish they got. But now if they doing certain things that's a lot, okay, cool. But for the most part, the Most High says we're not supposed to dive deep into their customs and culture and now bring that as a part of our custom and culture. If they do the same thing, all cool. That's what's up. But that's not like we are now taking on their practices. Shouldn't do that, right? So Leviticus 19:20. What did I say? 28. Come on, you got that, Gabar?
Yeah, Leviticus 19:28. You shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you. I am the Lord.
Right. Nor print any marks upon. So it just didn't go for cutting yourself. It's also putting markings on yourself, such as what we said, it has now transitioned into the tattoo type thing, right? Where it's not a knife and you cutting it in your skin, but it's the little pen and you putting ink on yourself for certain things. Well, you got people who got a picture of their mother on their arm, or the date of when their daughter died or something like that on their other arm. Those things are not supposed to be practiced, right? Because it now follows after the traditions of the nations. And then that can lead to other things as well, right? One thing, once you start doing one, then you're going to start doing the other.
How about if you did this before you came to?
Say again?
How about if you had done this before you came to?
What, if as far as gotten a tattoo or?
Yeah.
Right. So then that's where Isaiah, the first chapter comes in. Isaiah, the first chapter and the 16th verse.
Who's that? Isaiah what?
Isaiah 1 and 16. So Isaiah chapter 116, this is for those who have done these types of things in the past, right? Where you've gotten a tattoo and you haven't gone and spent the extra thousands of dollars or how much it costs to get it removed. It says, wash you, make you clean. Put away the evil of your doings from before mine eyes. Cease to do evil. Learn to do well. Seek judgment. Relieve the oppressed. Judge the fatherless. Plead for the widow, right? Come now and let us reason together, saith Yahweh. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be wool, which means that the Most High is going to forgive you, right? The sin is there, right? Like if you got a tattoo on, and that was something that you did in your ignorance, you didn't know. Right. Now you're going to cease to do evil. Now you're not continually going there to get that done. Right. You're not continually putting marks on your flesh. You said, I'm not learning that no more. I'm going to learn to do well now. Right. So now let me go learn about what I am supposed to be doing. Right. And now as I'm seeking judgment and I'm helping out the widow and the fatherless, the Lord says, now those sins that you had that was before me, now I'm wiping those away. I'm going to forgive you now for those things. Now you're like a new person starting all over, right? That's what it talks about in Corinthians with us now being a new creature in Christ. We put away the old man and the old things that we should do when we was in society. Or of society. Now we're of God and Christ, and we're doing the things that are pertaining to the principles of God, right? Now we're saying we're going to eat good food. We're going to dress accordingly. We're going to attend the right holy days. We're going to be kind and act accordingly to our brothers and our sisters and not try to defraud them and do things that is not right. These are the things where you're seeking righteousness that allows the Most High to say this person is trying to turn himself around and do the right thing. But now people out there who don't want to do the right thing, they're going to be held accountable for their sins, or going held in account for their sins in that day when the Most High returns, right? With Yahushua. It says, I'm going to stop at 20. It says, if you be willing and obedient, ye shall eat the good of the land. Meaning, if you continue in doing the good things, you'll be benefited. You'll receive the reward. You'll get the blessing. Verse 20, but if you refuse and rebel, you shall be devoured with the sword, for the mouth of the Lord hath spoken it, right? So it may not be instantaneous. It could be in that day. It could be before that day, but the Most High will get you. He's going to get you when he sees fit, and how he sees fit. All right. So that 16 to 20. Now I'm going to go to Isaiah 15 and 1. So this is Isaiah 15 chapter, verse 1. I'm going to read down to 4. Yeah. It says, the burden of Moab, because in the night of Ar of Moab is laid waste and brought to silence, because in the night Ker of Moab is laid waste and is brought to silence. So this is the burden or the destruction that the Most High is now going to bring upon the Moabites, right? So he's reading about what they're going to be going through, or the feeling, the effects on how they're going to act. It says, he is gone up to Jith and to Dibon, the high places, to weep or to mourn, right? Moab shall howl over Nebo and over Medeba, and all their heads shall be baldness, and every beard cut off. In their streets shall they gird themselves with sackcloths on the tops of their houses, and in their streets every one shall howl, weeping abundantly. And Heshbon shall cry, and Eliah, their voices shall be heard even to Jahaz. Therefore the armed soldiers of Moab shall cry out. His life shall be grievous unto him. So in the burden of Moab, this is Isaiah 15, 1-4. In the burden of Moab, when they're going through their tribulation, this is what you see that's going on. They're yelling and crying and moaning and screaming out in the tops of the mountains in the streets. And for their custom, they do what? There's baldness. They cut themselves, they shave their beards, right? That's not a custom or a trait that we do. We don't see when someone dies, all Israel goes and puts on or cuts their hair off and they're all bald. or they cut off their beard, right? That's not a practice. The Most High wants men to have their beards, right? We seen the time when men went to war, they wouldn't cut their beards off. And I think David was like, all right, y'all stay back until your beards grow back in, right? Because that's not something that the Lord wants. He tells us that we're not supposed to cut our beards or create baldness. But this is what you will see in the prophecy concerning Moab that they do, and not Moab only, but others. But now on the flip side, we also see it says that they also put on sackcloth. We put on sackcloth also, right? But we don't shave our heads. We don't cut off our beards when someone is mourning or you're in the street. That doesn't happen that way, right? So that's why I said that there's certain things that some of the nations will do that it's aligned with what we do, but we don't want to follow it because it becomes that same narrative of Genesis about dealing with the tree of good and evil, right? There's some good there, but there's some evil there. And the way people operate, you get tripped up on what is good and what's evil. You may be looking at evil to be good, right? Not discerning because there are some other things, right? Somebody say, well, listen, now Israel, I seen y'all wearing sackcloth. I seen the Moabites wearing sackcloth. So they all right. They kind of in line with y'all. And then they cut their heads bald. And I said, well, I guess that's cool to do as well, right? Because that's a part of their good book, whatever principles or doctrines they follow, that's in there. And you have some of us that go follow that and do the same thing. Where you at?
Yeah, Acts 18:18.
Acts the 18th chapter and the 18th verse.
And it says, and Paul, after this, tarried there yet a good while, and then took his leave of the brethren, and sailed thence into Syria, and with him Priscilla and Aquila, having shorn his head in Cenchreae, for he had a vow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he shaved his head because of whatever he did, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so that he shaved his head for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think sometimes if you have like some kind of disease or some kind of lysa or something, if I remember, you have to shave your head and grow back or something.
Right, but again, it's according to what we read. This is baldness for the dead.
Yeah.
Right? That's like where it talks about you should not bow down yourself to nothing, right? Meaning worship. But some people look at if you have a graven image in your house of an object, a lion, a bird, or whatever, they'll see that to be wrong. But that's not wrong because the key is that you don't have this to bow down to it, right? You're not doing this for this intent, right? A lot of times when we look at what we do is based on the intent or the objective behind it, right? So that's like if somebody says, listen, I'm going to go and I'm going to go feed the homeless, right? It appears to be a good thing. That's what the Lord wants us to do, to go feed the homeless. But inside your spirit, if your intentions on doing that is because I want him to see me doing this so that he can look at me a certain way, I don't really care about the person. I just want to be looked at like that. It's not in my heart of hearts to really want to help somebody. It's just the optics of what I want people to see. Right. That's like what we read in Matthew, where Christ talks about the priests, them going out there praying in the streets so that they want people to see them be, oh, look at these guys, man. These guys are holy men. Look at them praying. No, their inner heart is that they want to receive the adoration from people. That's their intentions. It's not that they really sincerely want to pray out or yearn out for the Most High. That's not their intentions. Right? So that's where it comes from. It's what is your intentions on doing this? If your intentions are doing it because there's other aspects of the law, because there are other things in the law where the Most High said, I think is, I forgot which, I don't know if it was for the Nazarite or whatever, that you couldn't shave your head, but then there's parts where you had to shave your head, right? Because of the law. There's parts where you should not eat unleavened bread. There's parts where you should eat leavened bread as it pertains to the sacrifice to the Most High. So it's based on the intentions and the direction. In this case, for the dead, you're not supposed to do that.
Right.
Right? That's off. That's wicked to the Most High. Where I was gonna go. All right, so let's go back to Deuteronomy 14.
1818.
1818.
As far as you went with that.
Yeah, he only read the one verse. All right. Verse 2 now. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God, and the Lord have chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself above all nations that are upon the earth. Peculiar or special, different, right? Is what the Most High created the children of Israel to be, right? And when people look at something that's peculiar, it's like, wow, look at that. That's different from the norm, right? And if you are an observant, if anybody is cynical, wants to be an observant person, when you align all the nations up, you start looking at the characteristics and things of each nation. Israel as a nation, so-called Negroes, West Indians, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, Peruvians, Brazilians, so forth and so on. We are that peculiar specimen in front of everybody. The way we operate, just the way we talk, the way we dress, we present style and fashion, the way we sing, the way we dance, right? We are always creating new things almost all the time. I was down in, I think it was DC, a little while ago, a few weeks ago, and we went to like a little function that they had down there, and it was all these dances that I never heard about. I'm not talking about like, people twerking and all that. I'm talking about like dancing. And I was like, dang, they had songs for them and everything. I'm like, where they come up with this? I'm looking like, man, they got their little thing, and then there's another one, and there's another one. I'm like, man, we just come up with stuff like out of the blue. We are people who are always creative, always coming up with a new style, a new word, a new slang, right? A peculiar people, so that when people now observe us, they latch on to us, right? They follow and hop on to our culture and our custom and our vibe, right? And then you see it in other people. It's very rare that the custom of a piece, not the custom, let me not say custom, the characteristic of a people is not usually influenced by us. We are forced with the customs, following after these so-called holidays and following after traditions where how you're supposed to dress when you go into work or when you go into a certain area, a certain place. We're forced with that tradition. But just in your normal vibe, right? That's not something that we are accustomed to always gravitate to. It's always the other way around, right? Sure, you got people when they get up in the high echelon, you got people who, like we say, Uncle Tom, and they talk different and everything else because they're forced to do that to be accepted. They think that they're going to get a benefit by doing that. But as far as for just in normal settings, it's just our energy. Everyone likes that energy that we present. Everyone likes that style that we give off, that sense of fashion and how we walk and it's always presented as something that is peculiar or appealing to folks. So when the Lord said that we are going to be a peculiar people unto himself, that's a part of it. That's not the thrust of it. The part of it, the main thing was that he gave us his laws, right? And no one else is going to be doing that like us, right? We are going to be made different because we're doing the Sabbath day. We're doing these feast days. We eating differently. We dressing differently, right? All of that definitely makes us stand out on a high level, right? That's why the Lord said what he said in Deuteronomy, I think it's the 4th chapter. Deuteronomy 4 and 6. So Deuteronomy 4 and 6 says, keep therefore and do them, which is the law, statutes, commandments. For this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people, right? So the other nations are going to hear of the commandments and the statutes that we're doing. Not that because we can rap good, we can sing good. We're peculiar in those areas too. But the primary focus is we're eating things that everybody not following after eating, right? We're doing things that everybody's not following. And they're like, why y'all do that? And we give them the statute. Man, who told y'all about that? Our God. Wow, this is a great nation, man. Your God, man, he got a people under him I ain't seen it like that before. That's what the other nations will say about us, right? Subconsciously, they say that now. It's just not as outward and forward as it is right here. But that's what they say subconsciously. Sometimes they'll come out and say it verbally, right? You have certain people on a high level, on a low level, in the middle. Everyone will come out and say, listen, these people here, man, they different. They built different, right? And then some people that get jealous and then try to, say we like animals and we're this and that to try to diminish our prowess. But that's just because of being classified as an inferior people, but we still operate like we're superior, right?
But they want to come into our neighborhood and munch off our spirit,
Mm-hmm.
trying to be among us.
Gone. So back in Deuteronomy 14, we have verse 3 now. It says, thou shalt not eat any abominable thing, right? Abominable thing meaning anything that the Most High has said is unclean or is not supposed to be consumed, right? And as we go through the chapter, it's going to get into what that abominable thing may be, right? Verse 4, these are the beasts which ye shall eat, the ox, the sheep, and the goat, the hart, and the roebuck, and the fallow deer, and the wild goat, and the pygarg, right? Pygarg, if you got it in your Bible, is talking about like the big buffalo bison type animals, right? Okay. And the wild ox, and the chimos, and every beast that parteth the hoof, and cleaveth the cleft into two claws, and cheweth the cud among the beasts, that ye shall eat, right? So it gives you an example, gives you certain kinds of animals to go off of as an example. But then it says, and then every other one that's like that, right? So it's just not those that you see read there. It's anything that fits in line with those type animals. Cheweth the cud, part of the hoof, right? Those are the ones that we're supposed to be eating. Anything like, right? It says in verse 7, and nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the cloven hoof, as the camel and the hare and the coney. For they chew the cud, but divide not the hoof. Therefore, they are unclean unto you, right? So they don't fit the same makeup as the animals that was read before. Yeah. Now, it's interesting because it says of them that divide the cloven hoof. So if you look at a camel, it has like a hoof, but it doesn't do it like how it just says right here in verse 6. The camel doesn't cleaveth the cleft into two claws. So his claw, his hoof is not divided into two parts. It's there, and as you can see like a little line there, but it's still like a paw, right? It's still like a paw, like a dog or something like that. You can see the line, but it doesn't separate, right? So that's what it's going into. Then it says, but divideth not the hoof. Well, it's not totally separated when you look at its claw. So now a camel is being used as an example as well. The hare is being used as an example as well. The coney is being used as an example as well. These type animals is maybe common to us back then, that we could say, okay, fine. When I go out into the plains, when I go out into the fields, when I go out into the valleys, and I'm looking at animals and I'm hungry, and we got to go kill to eat, I got to go and observe these animals and make sure that they fit these different types of scenarios, right? In order for me to kill it, to eat it. Right? Because the Most High already started off in saying, you shall not eat anything that's abominable. These things here are abominable, right? In Leviticus 11, which is the parallel of this in Deuteronomy 14, when you read down, let's say Leviticus 11 and 4, it says, lest these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud or to divide the hoof, as the camel, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean to you, right? So it's interesting, if you pay attention, go back to Leviticus 19, or go to Leviticus 11 and 4, not 19, 11 and 4. when it says, nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, right? This one, these chew the cud, meaning when they eat the food, it goes down in the stomach and then they bring it back up and they eat it again, right? These do that. It says, all of them that divide the hoof. They have a certain type of hoof that's divided. But then it says, as the camel, because he chewed the cud, but divided not the hoof. His hoof is not totally divided like a cow or a goat. Right. It is it's almost looking like, if you look at it, too bad I don't have the thing hooked up or have my piece hooked up. I'll show you. But if you go online, Google search, and you'll see the foot of a camel where it's like a paw and it has like a line there. Right. Then go look at the hoof of like a goat or something like that, where it's divided. It's into like two parts. Okay. It don't look the same. They're not the same type of divided hoof. Right? So the Lord has it there so that you can be very distinct when you're going out there into the plains, right? Because you have a camel as an example, but you may have some other type of animal that has that same hoof like a camel. And you can say, oh, no, not that one. No, not that one. Oh, that one looked just like a sheep hoof, right? And I'm watching it and it chews the cud just like it. All right, that one is good to eat, right? So the Lord is giving you examples, but not all of, right, when it comes to these land animals. So going back to Deuteronomy 14. So we have verse 8 now. Actually, I'm going to read 7 again. It says, nevertheless, shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide up the cloven hoof, as the camel and the hare and the coney, for they chew the cud, but divideth not the hoof. For therefore they are unclean unto you. Unclean meaning what?
Good to eat.
Say again?
Not good to eat. Unclean
to eat. The animal itself is not unclean. It's unclean to eat, right? Because people ride camels, right? They're used for transportation and a beast of burden. So it's not to say that the animal itself is just totally unclean. We should just avoid it. It's not good to eat, because that's what it starts off with. That verse 8, it says, and the swine, right? So now the swine is different from the camel. It says, because it divideth the hoof, right? So when you look at his hoof, it is divided. Right. Yet cheweth not the cud, right? So it doesn't fit, again, everything that we read in verse 6. He has the hoof, but he don't chew the cud, right? He says, it is unclean unto you. Ye shall not eat of their flesh, nor touch their dead carcass, right? So we should not even deal with anything of a dead animal that is of a swine, right? So today's term, in today's society, you know, in our area here, a good portion of us already have that understanding about pigs being unclean. A lot of people have that understanding about pigs being unclean or being filthy, but most people just don't care. Right? Not so much these other animals, right? But it's just the swine, because that has always been, you know, one of those animals from our custom, which, you know, Amalek also upholds to a certain degree. And then Islam, they also have it. But again, I said to a certain degree, because in certain practices and in certain depths of their religion, they allow, especially like Islam, if you have nothing to eat, they say, okay, you can go eat the pig. Right? You can go eat the swine, right? It's allowed if there's nothing else to eat, right? Which in a sense is to say, one would think, well, then, okay, then it's not that bad not to eat then. If you're going to allow me to, with this circumstance, I don't have nothing else, I can eat it. So it's like you going home, you in your refrigerator, in your house, and ain't nobody cook nothing. Dang. No, not even there's some swine in there. But ain't nobody cook nothing. So then you say, all right, well, I ain't got nothing here to eat, man. I'm going to go to my boy's house. He live next door to me. You go over there and they eating pork chops. And you say, well, I ain't had nothing. So you got pork chops. So they say if you ain't got nothing you can eat, then you be licensed to eat. Not that you even went to do the due diligence to go get something that is lawful for to eat. You just said, well, I read in there that it said I can do it, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and eat it. It ain't that bad. It ain't ultimately forbidden. That's kind of that's the spirit, right? We start to marginalize what we can do and can't do. As far as for saying, you know, I could just go to the store. I just ask my mom or ask my for some money and I go get some lawful food.
Right.
But you use that as the, well, I ain't had none in the house, so
That's my excuse.
hey, man. Yeah, I'm gonna give you one of them pork chops, man. You see what that thing tastes like. And now your mind is all in a you know, I'm gonna try everything out type space, right? Now you don't went from pork to shrimp scampi and to lobsters because you ain't had nothing, right? And now you using that as the excuse. It says in verse 9, these shall you eat of all that are in the waters, all that have fins and scales shall you eat, right? So in certain cases, you know, like we read on the first part with the land animals, now we get into fish. They didn't even give you, and they say like the salmon or the sea bass, right? Or the whiting. It just says anything that has fins and scales you can eat, right? Simple, right? Mm-hmm. It says, and whatsoever have not fins and scales, it's not and or, it's and, meaning both have to be there, right? Shall scales ye may not eat, it is unclean unto you, right? It is unclean to be eaten, right? So the Lord has, you know, a dietary law for those who are new, who are watching online or listening online. There is a dietary law that is prescribed in the Bible, right? So now, even when you go to the New Testament, go to the book of Acts. Go to the book of Acts, the 10th chapter. And 11th verse, 10th verse. So Acts 10 and 10. The verse starts at 9. Acts 10 and 9. It's a lot. So Acts 10 and 9 says, on the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. And he became very hungry and would have eaten. But while they made ready, he fell into a trance, right? So he's up on the roof, he's praying to the Most High. Those who's down in the house, they cooking supper or whatever. No, they cooking lunch because it's about to getting ready to eat something. And while he's waiting, he falls into a trance, like a vision is about to be shown to him. Verse 11, and he saw heaven open and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the four corners and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts and creeping things and fowls of the air, right? So now there are some wild animals that we can eat. Like when we read before, it said the wild ox is able to be eaten, right? So he probably would have had a wild ox on this sheet as far as for creeping things and all animals. But it says all manner of four-footed beasts, meaning clean and unclean animals are all being represented on this sheet, right? Creeping things and fowls of the air, as we'll further read on back in Deuteronomy. It says, verse 13, and there came a voice to him, rise, Peter, kill and eat, right? So now in the vision, in the trance, Peter was being instructed to now get up and go and kill these animals that he's seeing a vision of and eat them, right? It says in 14, but Peter said, no, not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean, because according to the law, I'm not supposed to just eat any old manner of animals. Even here in the New Testament, after Christ has already risen, right? This didn't change. Christ didn't come to do away with the law that man would not know about what was to be eaten and not to be eaten, because Peter now is saying, hold on, I see what's clean and what's not clean. I'm not just going to go eat everything that's on that sheet because I have kept the law, right? And the voice spake unto him again the second time, what God have cleansed, that call thou common, right? So now here it is. When you read the gospel, Christ used to always give them parables, right? Parables about certain things, and he would use things like bread, And they would be thinking what? Carnally, right? They would be thinking carnally minded about bread, but Christ was speaking figuratively about certain things, and they didn't always get it. So now here Peter is now about to go through the same thing again with the vision directly from the Most High. He's being shown something physical in the vision, but it's really talking about something else. It's speaking about something figurative, not the actual animals, right? It says verse 16, this was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven, right? Verse 17, now while Peter doubted in himself what this vision which he has seen should mean, behold, the men which were sent from Cornelius have made inquiry for Simon's house and stood before the gate. So now here comes a man that's coming to see Peter, right? While he's on the roof pondering what's going on, the Most High has now allowed this man to come to his house, right? So now I'm gonna fast forward. Peter is about to get the understanding of what that vision was with the sheep, with the clean and unclean animals. I'm gonna jump down to verse I'm gonna jump down to 25 and read to 28. Still in Acts. So in 25, and as Peter was coming in, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and worshiped him. But Peter took him up, saying, stand up, I myself also am a man. And as he talked with them, he went in and found many that were there that were come together. And he said unto them, you know that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation. But God hath showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. So now what is Peter referring to? What did the Most High show him? He showed him this sheep that had clean and unclean things on it, right? But the unclean things Peter didn't want to deal with. So now here comes this man that's not of his nation, and Peter's now realizing, because in the beginning he was doubting. Now Peter's realizing and saying, all right, the Most High is showing me something now. I just cannot not deal with any who's not Israelite now. Now I can communicate with them and talk with them and converse with them and teach them, give them certain understandings. Before it was, we didn't even communicate with them. Same thing happened with Christ at the well with the woman. Right. She said to Christ, what are you doing talking to me? You know, Jews don't even talk and communicate with us, right? So now it was shown that that's not going to be the case moving forward.
Oh, this man wasn't of the 12 tribes?
Right, that's what you said. To come unto one of another nation. That's what it says in verse 28.
Yeah, originally I understood that he was just of the 12 tribes, but he was practicing in these other nations, following these other customs. Right, I understand that some camps believe that, right? They'll say that Cornelius was an Israelite. I understand that certain camps believe it. That's not what we believe. Because the unclean sheep and then what was being described here is another nation, right? Now, I understand the logic behind that, but I'm just saying that's not what we stand on, or some other camps too. Okay, just because it said he was of another nation.
Right.
Yeah, oh, wow.
So now, that's it on that. We stop at 28. I read from 9 to, I stopped at 17. Right. And then I read from 25 to 28. All right.
So, let me put that makes me ask you another question.
Pertaining to that?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll hold that because that'll go off. We'll hold that till later on after the class, and then we can talk about that. So now let's go back to Deuteronomy 14. And what did I leave off at? 9. I read 9. So Deuteronomy 14:9, these shall ye eat of all that are in the waters, all that have fins and scales shall ye eat, and whatsoever have not fins and scales ye may not eat. It is unclean unto you. Of all clean birds ye shall eat, but of these are they of which ye shall not eat: the eagle and the ossifrage and the osprey and the glede and the kite and the vulture after his kind, and every raven after his kind, and the owl and the night hawk and the cuckoo and the hawk after his kind, the owl and the great owl and the swan and the pelican and the gear eagle and the cormorant and the stork and the heron after her kind, and the lapwing and the bat, right? So what it did was it gave you a host of varieties of different birds, but it says anything that comes of that species of bird, you're not supposed to eat or consume. Eagles, ravens, ospreys, right? These are like scavenger type animals. And a lot of times people want to look at what they consume, right? It's not so much what they consume, because I know I fall victim to when I talk about fish that have fins and scales. They usually eat plankton and certain things that's, like, good food that's in the waters. But then they'll look at, some of the other animals that are unclean. They'll say, well, he eat grass too, just like that thing eat grass, right? But they'll eat other things that are not grass, like certain birds. A lot of these birds that you read about that dwell over the waters outside of like eagles and them, they'll eat crustaceans. They'll get the crabs and the stuff that come up out of it. They'll eat those things, but they'll also eat fish, right? Mm-hmm. So we pay attention to the outside perspective of the animal or the bird or whatever it is, and just primarily, number one, just don't follow that. The Most High say, A, don't eat it, right? That's number one. And two, if you want to get scientific, the makeup of these animals, fish and birds, the Most High has different makeups for them, right? That it's not good for you to consume it, because there's certain things that's in it that is going to be harmful to your body, right? Something like if you eat a goat, sure, a goat will eat grass and the things that's nutrient for the goat to eat, and its body makeup is conducive for us to eat. Someone could say, well, I seen a pig eating grass. Yeah, it was probably eating grass, but they eat other things as well. But let's just say you only saw the pig eating just grass. The pig didn't have any other stuff. It was just eating grass. The makeup of that animal and what's inside of it is not good for your body to consume, right? The pig can go and eat anything, like a hyena. A hyena can eat almost anything. Their jaws are probably one of the strongest jaws on the planet. Crack bones easy, just like a pig can. Right. But the acid that's inside their bodies to break down those bones and to break down that flesh so easily, that acid is the makeup of that animal. The Lord said, don't eat that. Right. So now you're going to go and eat and consume things that's chemically made up for that, and now it becomes a part of your body, right? So we all have a chemical makeup that certain things is good for, some things is not good for, even lawful things, right? We've eaten and consumed so many different chemicals and things. Now, some of us have high cholesterol, diabetes, this, that, and the third, right? So now when someone comes and brings a lawful thing for you to eat, now I can't eat that because I'm dealing with something right now, right? So now you got to even refrain from eating lawful things because of your chemical makeup or your body's imbalanced, whether it's too much salt or not enough salt, right? It was at one point where I didn't have enough salt. My doctor said, yo, put more salt on your food. And I was like, oh, I never heard that. But because I was low in it, I had to go and consume more of it. Folks can remember back in the day, I used to pass out a lot because my blood pressure used to be low. I didn't get to that point where I had high blood pressure. I had low blood pressure. So when I used to go and stand up and move around, I get dizzy and faint and lightheaded and not pass out because my pressure didn't get up to that certain point. So to get there, they just say, add more on there. I was like, whoa, this is great, right? But now I'm at a point where my levels is normal getting up there. So now I can't do that no more, right? Now I can't just add as much as I wanted to like I could in the past. So each individual person lawfully needs to balance and understand what's good and not good for her own body. But in this case, we know the unclean animals is not supposed to be eaten. Unclean fish is not supposed to be eaten. Unclean birds is not supposed to be eaten. I see your hand. So now you got to go, because some of these words you may say, well, what's the glede? I don't know what the glede is off the top of my head. So guess what? It tells you in 2 Timothy to study to show thyself approved. Go look it up, right? Go research it, right? The same way how we read in the last chapter when the Most High told us that we had to go and do a diligent search. You're just not going off of what somebody said. No, you need to go put forth some effort. It's not always about what just somebody say. You want to have confirmation in your own that what is being said is what is being said. I remember when we was in the school years ago, somebody said, yeah, they got pork in that juice. So everybody stayed away from the juice. And not to say that Esau couldn't do it, because as I found out in the past couple of years, Esau does some things to food that just, you'd be like, why did they do that? Or whatever nation did it, right? But we all avoided it until some people was like, hold on, I'm gonna go look this up. I'm gonna go investigate, right? And they went and researched. My wife was part of the group, went and researched it, and come to find out, it was no pork in it. So it was like, okay, where did you get your information from? Oh, well, I just heard another group say that. So we went and researched. I looked information up online. I called the company, and the company said, no, we don't put no animal products or anything in our drink. That's not a part of what, we don't have that in our facility. Okay, thank you, right? So then it's not just off of someone saying, now you put the effort to go and check and examine certain things out. So some of these things that you may say, I don't even know what that is. Okay, cool. Go look it up. Go Google it. Go get a book or something, and then kind of get that information, and maybe you can come and present it back to us, right? Present it to me or someone else who may not fully understand, because we just probably eat chicken and turkey and that's just it, right? Hens and Cornish hens and that's just it. Maybe there's something else that fits that mold that we didn't know about, and it's not common. So maybe you travel somewhere, right? A lot of people like to travel and take flights and go on vacation in certain places, and you go somewhere and they got a bird or something over there and you don't know what it is. Well, you would have done the due diligence, and you got that list of things that's local and that's foreign, that if you went somewhere, you'd have that documented already, or you've had some knowledge of it.
Like how some nations might even take the pig out of his natural environment, eating garbage and stuff like that, and put him in a pen,
right, and feed
them,
right.
I don't know what they feed them.
Right.
You know, certain feeds, but they feed them.
Right.
But he said, I like what you said about the acid makeup in them,
right,
or something. You know, even turkey vulture who eat carrot, they have a certain acid in their stomach, able to digest all these bones and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hurt them.
It doesn't hurt them. They can eat whatever. They can go and eat a dead animal that's been sitting out there for weeks. Yeah. Right. If you go and if we go and let's say you buy some meat, like whether it be like some ground beef or something like that, and you had it and it's thawed out, and it started to get bad, right? And you go and you cook it and you eat it. What's gonna happen? You're gonna get sick. You're gonna be like, yo, man, what was that, man? I don't feel so good, right? Your stomach is not conducive to eating that type food. Their bodies, they can eat whatever. Sitting out there for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you got flies and everything all flying around, and they look like, oh, that's food down there. And they're going and eating all that stuff up, and they're not affected by it, right? Or land animals, right? Scavengers, possums and skunks and whatever. They go eat that stuff, no problem. But we can't eat and consume that stuff, and it's going to be a problem for us and our bodies.
They said the chicken eats anything.
That's kind of what he just said. Well, if you have a chicken in its natural habitat, doing what it's supposed to do, fine. But if you go and put a chicken in another, matter of fact, I think Dr. Sabi, if I remember correctly, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I remember watching the video, and Dr. Sabi said that the chicken was unclean, right? And I remember his basis for saying it is because you don't read the word chicken in the Bible, right? Now, I found that to be a baseless reason, because based on what we just read, right? I don't see salmon in the Bible. I don't see porgies in the Bible, right? These are different things. I don't see certain animals that we are able to consume not called out in the Bible. It talks about after their kind, right? It has to be after their kind. So the Most High hasn't listed everything that comes after that kind of animal or species in the Bible. He wants us to be able to use our reasoning to go and figure things out. Same thing when you read in the New Testament, it goes into different types of behaviors, right? Someone who's dealing with malice, someone who's dealing with covetousness, someone who's dealing with lasciviousness, right? It starts to list them. And then it says, and other things like the sort, right? So it didn't list them all. It lists some of them. And then said anything else that fits like that. So then you got to be wise and smart enough to go and understand what's allowed and what's not allowed. If you can't figure that out, then you're going to be one. You're going to be not just cut off, but you're going to be the one that's going to be easily, the blind being led by the blind, right? So again, it's everything after its kind. Turkey, like he just brought up the turkey vulture. I didn't read the turkey vulture, but I know the turkey vulture is coming after a kind of one of these animals that's here, right? And then there's a turkey. I didn't see a turkey either called out in this chapter like that, but it's something that we can eat. So now if it was only that, because some people are very particular and don't like to use deductive reasoning, right? They want it to be just explicit. The word has to be said like this instead of being, using your sense. They'll say, well, I know in the scriptures it talks about what did the Most High give us? Was it the hen? No, what's the bird? From heaven. No. I can't think of it. What is it? Yeah. What is it?
It's in the Bible?
Yes. Oh man, why is it so now? I'm glad I'm not doing. Yeah. Right, but I'm talking about what he gave us for food. Quail. Right, the quail. Right. So he gave us quail, and that came down and fell. Right. So now, if that was the case, and we just say, well, all we just eat is just quail, right? But then you now go and look after the quail after his kind, right? So now you got to go into the kind of birds that the quail falls into. Right. Then you go and see the other different types of birds that are in that family. These are allowed to be eaten, right? That's kind of what the Most High is saying here when you read this chapter, as far as for things that can be eaten and things that cannot be eaten. So then you go into the owl and the family of the different owls, or those that are like the owl, those can't be eaten. So if you out in the forest somewhere and you really roughing it, and you got people who hunt to eat, you kill a deer or something like that, then yeah, you can go and eat that bird or eat that deer. But if it falls in line with what we're reading here and things after their kind, avoid it, right? Avoid that, right? Because even in this chapter, if I was like talking about venison, right? So someone said, okay, yeah, the Bible means it says venison and venison is associated with that, but everything after its kind is a key point, right? Same thing with the seed after his kind. The Most High made different types of seeds, different types of plants that now create different types of fruits and vegetables after their kind, right? It's the key. And it's the same thing for man. That's why everything starts and permeates with the seed and what comes from out of that branch or that lineage, right? Make sense?
Well, it's like deer in there. This is deer. Follow deer.
Yeah, follow deer.
So
Con.
But the quail a duck?
No.
When you say you eat it.
But you eat a duck though.
I want you to tell me. I want you to, yeah. I want brothers to get in the habit of bringing forth information and not just always asking and just getting a verbal. I want somebody to go do the research and come back and say, oh, well, I went and did the research and I checked this out. Because that's what we had to do when I was coming in. It wasn't always question, answer. It was like, all right, you go check that out and come back to class with what you researched and what you checked out.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because, you want people to get into the habit of doing things when they're home.
Right.
Doing things on their own, right? And then enlightening the rest of us. Right? I don't want y'all to only be the one that's enlightening me. I don't want, I want others, everybody to enlighten us on information that they research. That's how we grow, right? Everybody is a part of the body. Everybody has a purpose to the body. So somebody need to go and do that information. I remember before we was talking about herbs. I'm not knowledgeable on herbs. I just started getting into it when I came back from Florida, getting into the different types of things. But I always wanted someone else who had that type of drive to go and get that information and then share it with the rest of us, right? You got issues with this? Hey, take this herb, take that herb, do this, do that, so that the branches of the leaves of the body is helping the rest of us, right? So now let's go back, Deuteronomy 14, and I'm going to read 17 again. It says, and the pelican and the gier eagle and the cormorant, right? So I stopped there, and we know the cormorant, if you read about the cormorant, is another type of a scavenger bird, right? But the Most High prophesied about this one when you read the book of Isaiah. Scavenger bird, yeah. Isaiah, and it's going to show you what type of a bird it is. So Isaiah, the 34th chapter. Go ahead, Con.
Even some people even question the egg, you know. But some the clean birds you can't eat their egg.
Right.
Like you Job say, you know, is there a taste in the white of an egg, you know?
Isaiah 34. And 8. So Isaiah 34 and 8. It says, for it is the day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. All right. Meaning as far as for the day of the Lord, when the Most High is now going to bring his judgment in the last days. Right. So you read about the day of the Lord, Armageddon, so forth and so on. It says, and the streams thereof shall be turned into pitch, and the dust thereof into brimstone, and the land thereof shall become burning pitch. So this is now giving a vision of when the Most High destruction comes on a certain parts of the earth, that it's going to be like a fiery pitch that's just going to be streamed from the land, right? It says, verse 10, it shall not be quenched night nor day. The smoke thereof shall go up forever. Meaning when those bombs drop that the Lord has prophesied about and they hit those regions of the land, it's going to be burning. It's going to be a perpetual smoke that's going to be coming up from the ashes forever, is what the Lord is saying. It's not going to stop night nor day. It's going to be left as a testimony or a memorial for what was happening here right now. Right now, we can't see it because we're dwelling here. Right. But in the future, it's going to be barren of any humans, right? It says, from generation to generation, it shall lie waste. None shall pass through it forever and ever. But the cormorant and the bittern shall possess it. The owl also and the raven shall dwell in it. And he shall stretch out upon it in the line of confusion and the stones of emptiness. So no man, no person is going to inhabit that region anymore. But you'll have scavengers left there. These types of birds will be left there. Right? When you read it in other chapters, it talks about the carcasses that's going to be left throughout, the bodies and things that's going to be left throughout. And the Most High is going to leave these type scavengers there to eat of their flesh from generation to generation. Right? Now imagine these types of birds that are eating the flesh of the dead and what's left from generation to generation. That's a lot of dead bodies, number one. Number two, the effects of the types of radiation and things that's left that's going to be in the earth or in that region in the bodies that they're going to be eating. Right. But they can eat it. Right? Their body is made up that they can consume those things. Right? So this is why that's why I talked about the makeup of certain birds and certain animals, certain fish, certain mammals. The Most High has made it so that it can sustain certain things. I'm just talking about a dead carcass lying in the street for 3 weeks, maybe a month or two, right? And it's sitting there. What kind of poisons and things now have just started growing on that flesh? But they can come down and pick that thing to the bone. And all you have left is the bone of the carcass of the animal. Because the Lord's makeup for them is so that they can absorb whatever those things are, right? Their main foe is going to be another predator. Not so much what they eat, right? But another predator that's going to come and kill them or whatever, or they get, hit by a car or, something happens, the plane fly by and the birds get caught up in the plane or something. That's their main predator as far as for scab, because a lot of their food that they consume, they're able to eat. We not like that. We can't eat any old thing, right? A lot of times, not even the majority of the times, what goes in the body affects or the lack thereof, right? If you just consuming just meat all day, you ain't getting no vegetables, but you just eat meat. Meat is, let's say a cow is lawful, or a goat is lawful, but that's all you eating and you're not balancing it out, your body gonna be jacked up because you're deficient in certain things. And now you've eaten too much of another thing, right? And it's lawful, but you just haven't balanced your diet in the proper way, right? So that's what we all have to always be cognizant of, right? Eating the right foods and not being, glutton to eat too much of one thing. But I'll stop there. It goes into other wild beasts and things that's going to be there. I'll stop there. Kun.
Yeah, the cormorant looked like a duck.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking it up,
Cormorant.
Yeah, he looked like a duck.
Mm-hmm.
He's near the water and he's in the water.
Kun. So I'm going to read 18 now, Deuteronomy 14:18. And the stork and the heron affect after her kind, and the lapwing and the bat. Right? Verse 19. And every creeping thing that flieth is unclean unto you. They shall not be eaten. Right? Everything of like the bugs, creeping things, the bugs that fly, those are not to be eaten. So now there are certain insects that you can eat, right? That the Most High allows you to eat, certain crickets and things, people went and put them in chocolate and everything else, and you eat them. Those can be eaten. That's not a part of our normal snack diet. Right? I'm gonna be honest with you. If you probably came in here on one of the feast days and you came in with a bowl of chocolate-covered crickets, I might not be as inclined to want to eat it. Right? It's not. I'm not. Listen, I'm not. It's not a commandment that you got to eat crickets. It's just allowable. If you do want to eat it, you're allowed to eat it. Like you got certain people who say they don't eat red meat, right? That's their choice. They're not commanded to eat red meat outside of the Passover where you got to eat the lamb, right? But other than that, you ain't got to eat it. Or somebody may say, I don't want to eat no chicken. I don't want to eat fish, right? For whatever reason, that's their choice. I'm not commanded. So these certain crickets, certain creeping things that are allowed to eat, I'm just not there yet. Now I'm in the kingdom and I'm sitting next to Yahushua, and Yahushua just handing the bowl and go like that. I'm gonna be a follower there. And I'm like, oh man, Yahushua now is good. But right now I just say spiritually there. Right? Hold on, him and then you.
I see over in Africa they have all this wild meat. No, they have the bush meat. They be eating all of this stuff here. And selling it too. Yeah. They be selling it in open market.
Not only that, the Asia too.
Oh, in Asia too?
Yeah, Asia too.
Bushmeat. They have bushmeat over there too?
Asia and some of the defect nations too. I don't know just about, but I'm talking about just like anything. Like they'll just have anything. Like you talk about dogs and cats and everything else. They'll eat anything. Yeah. So now, for us, because it's a domesticated animal, we see that and be like, oh man, they wilding, right? Because even though it's unlawful, it's domesticated and we see that they consume it. But there's other things as well that are consumed and eaten that shouldn't be eaten. So if you want to parallel them, to eat a cat is almost the same as eating a rat. Right? And most cases when you go look at these, they eat rats. Right? Just regular rats and other different scavengers and things. And sometimes even in the South, I know they made, talk about what, possum soup and all the different kind of things they'll eat. Yeah, in the South, they'll eat those types of things that is not supposed to be eaten, but they made it become a delicacy. So you go down there and you're like, yeah, they got lizard stew, fried gator, and then you go over across the pond and you eating kangaroo and all. They've made everything a delicacy. Right? I think I saw a documentary this week where they have a place where it's like full of wild horses, right? But it's not lawful yet. I say yet because I don't know. It's not lawful yet to consume horse meat here in America. So what they do is they go and they slaughter the horses and they sell them to the other nations for them to eat for food, right? Because it's still not lawful here yet. I think it was about 5-10 years ago when they used to have these meatballs that was being sold at IKEA. I think it was Swedish meatballs, and those type of Swedish meatballs had horse meat in it, right? And then they found out, and they had to ban it. They had to take it out the shelf, take it out the stores because they had horse meat, and nobody knew that they had packaged a version of the meatball horse meat. because over there in certain countries they eat and consume whatever they want to eat. Oh, look, I think he had his hand up first.
No, you saying that was according to verse 19, it says creeping thing that flies is unclean unto you.
Right.
So that's about the grasshopper, right?
The grasshopper, it's a hopper. Like a cricket is a hopper. It's not a fly where it just be flying all over the place.
Oh, it does fly.
It's a grasshopper.
It hops, and then some of them got wings and can take
Well,
off.
if there's certain insects that have wings that just fly, they unclean to you. Don't eat it.
Okay, so it's not talking about the grass.
Right. Crickets and things that are like. Remember, another good thing to do when we talking about these birds, go get the information on the different creeping things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Creeping things. And the reason why and I'm not trying to be anal or what facetious, right? Because again, my whole intent is that when brothers come to classes, that y'all start teaching the classes for a half hour, bringing out information, because that's what we did, right? You go and you research, you go and study, then you come and you bring out something for the congregation on your own that you can now enlighten us with, right? Because off the top of my head right now, to go through every creeping thing that's lawful to eat, I probably couldn't remember and do it off the top of my head, right? To have it done. But I'm hoping that somebody else, other brothers, will do just that. And then come to a class and be like, yeah, so I wanted to bring out, I got some information on those birds, and I got some information on those crickets. Like I went and did the research for about 2 weeks, and I got them, and I even understand the differences about the creeping things and what's in the makeup and all that, and it'll be enlightening for us.
And what would you say about the turkey? What? The turkey bandit?
Turkey vulture?
It's not a turkey.
No.
They just call it.
Oh, yeah. That's like when people talk about turkey ham, right? It's not ham. It's a type of meat, but it's not the same as the other. So the turkey, it's not. Yeah, it ain't come from the pig. They just called it that. But same thing with the turkey vulture. It's not a turkey that you can consume. It's a different. I don't even know why. I guess because of the neck, it resembles a turkey of that type of a vulture. Yeah.
Yeah. What about organ meat? Kidney beans, liver.
You said kidney beans?
Like kidney. No,
oh,
kidney.
I'm about to say.
No, not kidney beans, but like kidneys and livers.
Right. What about it? Because the Most High has scriptures on those things. That,
like clean meat. I'm talking about a clean meat.
Right. But the Most High has scripts on those things that are not to be eaten as well. Right.
So,
yeah. There's laws on that. Right, go do the concordance on liver and everything else, and then you'll get some of your answers.
A sanu.
A who? A sanu? Like the cartilage? No.
I don't think so. The children of Israel don't eat as a sanu.
Right. No.
That's just the top of the bone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right, so we got some homework out there. I like that. All right, so where we at? Verse 20. It says, but of all clean fowls ye may eat, right? So all the clean ones that don't fall into this line is consumable.
Right.
21. This is where it gets fun, right? Ye shall not eat of anything that dieth of itself, right? So something that just got old, it fell over and croaked and died, right? Or it had some kind of an illness, right? And died because of whatever illness or wound. Maybe it got in a fight and it got a wound and the wound got infected and caused it to die. Whatever that is, that died of itself, right?
Right.
It says, you should not eat of anything that died of itself. Thou shalt give it unto the stranger that is in thy gates, that he may eat it, right? So this is one of those verses that you see the severing or distinction the Most High has made by separating Israel from everybody else, right? Because when most people think about, everybody being one, God created all nations and everybody should be living in peace and harmony. When you read this, then you start to scratch your head and be like, well, hold on, this is strange. This is strange. Because he's saying if it died of itself, don't eat anything. I understand that. I understand what probably comes on that animal that you shouldn't eat. But you're telling me that you, as the children of Israel, can take that and then go give it to somebody else for them to eat. That's wicked.
Right.
That's not right. Right? Logically, a rational person would think about that and say, not right, because they're thinking that everybody is equal. We're all the same, right? Should be no differences between us. But the Lord said his people, Israel, is a holy people, separate, severed from everybody else, given specific laws. You got to be holy and not eat it. But you can give them whatever. You can give them whatever, right?
Clean meat.
Huh?
I mean, well, clean meat.
Right. That, yeah, of the clean meat that died of itself, you can give it to them. So if you find a fallow deer, I've been laying on the street on the side of the road for about 4 days or 3 days, and you didn't kill it. You walked up and seen it dead, probably got hit by a carriage or something. You're like, damn, let's go put it in the back. You're going to put it in the back. You're going to go into town. You're going to say, I got one fallow deer here. Anybody want one fallow deer? You're going to say, but no, brother, not for you, not for you, not for you, not for you. This is for the nations. I found this deer in the woods somewhere, right? I'm selling it to everybody. Oh, all right, my brother. All right, brother. You know, good. And he goes sells it. That's lawful in the Most High's eyes. It's not Israel coming up with this situation here out of their own. This is the Lord that's saying this, right? So there has to be a distinction. So if anybody has a problem with it, then you got a problem with the Most High, or you got a problem with the word, right? Because it's what it is. We didn't come up with this law. So I'm going to read it again. It says, ye shall not eat of anything that died of itself. Thou shalt give it unto the stranger that is in thy gates, that he may eat it. Or that thou mayest sell it unto an alien or a foreigner. I'm not talking about some extraterrestrial person. It's talking about a foreigner. Right. You're not from here. Right. So somebody come passing through your city or from around your land and they want to get some food, then you can sell it to them. Right. Now, the flip side of that, right? Because the Most High said he was going to bring us down low for disobeying his commandments, and the nation will get us up on high. Don't that happen to us? Don't we get sold the bad meat in our stores now, and they get the good meat? Right? And we complain about it. We be like, oh man, that's messed up. You go in their store, they got good meat. Their meat don't look all battered and bruised like ours do. Right? And it probably is. They probably ran into a freaking tree and got stuck and bled to death and died and was sitting there. And they're going to take that, skin that thing, chop it up, and then, hey, we're going to go sell it to them down in doggone Philly. They're going to be going to Pathmark and they're going to get that meat and you're going to see the bruises on it. Or the chicken thing. They're like, we ain't going to eat them. We're going to get up to them. Right? All the messed up pieces of meat and things you find out not in the city. Right? That's why you got to always try to bless your food, man, because you don't know what it is that was going on with that food. You got to pray to the Most High and ask him to take that poison or that whatever it is that was in it out of it and allow that food to be nutritious for you. Right? Because you don't know. Now, one would say, yeah, every nation is doing that, right? Everybody is going to be doing the same thing. However, if you read the scriptures, the Most High says that he's a God unto us. Right. If you read the scriptures, those who wanted to pray to our God or the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob had to go through one of those righteous individuals from Israel. Right? It wasn't that they had a direct line or a direct channel to the Most High. No, there's an order. Like we can't just go directly to the Most High now. You got to go through Christ. Right. There's an order. So that's how the Lord has set it up in the scriptures. So when someone says, well, yeah, they're praying to them, you got to scratch your head and say, well, who they're really praying to if the Most High says he's a God for Israel and Israel only. Right? Matter of fact, let me just get that just because some people may say, oh, this guy is talking out his head, man. Who are you saying that to? Let's go to the book of Joel. Joel, I think the 3rd chapter. Yep. Man, you on point. You read that out. Oh, you called that out, Daniel?
Yeah.
All right, you read that. Yeah, Joel 2:27.
I am the midst of Israel. I am your God and none else.
Right, I'll read it since you're still looking for it. It says, Joel 2:27, and ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your power, your God, and none else. And my people shall never be ashamed, right? So that's what the Most High is now declared. He is the Lord, he's in the midst of us, and he is the Lord our God, and none else. But people say, well, God is a God of all nations. The Bible even talks about that. True, it does. But he says that he is a God only to Israel. This is just one verse. There's other verses that say the same thing. Right? I'm just using one to back up the statement. Right? Let the Most High be true. So he's now the one that's saying, calling the shots. You get him that. You give them that bad meat. I'm not their God like I'm your God. Right?
Yeah. Some people might even question all the clean meat and so on and so forth when we buy and et cetera, right?
Mm-hmm.
1 Corinthians 10:25. It says, whatsoever is sold in the shambles that eat, asking no question for conscience sake, for the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. So, clean meat, you're not gonna worry about, it's still clean meat. You have to eat, right? Are you gonna pick up the clean meat? Like what you said, they're gonna give us not the top quality meat.
Mm-hmm.
And another scripture said, we shall eat our difficult things. We shall defile bread among the Gentiles. Like they're not gonna give us the quality stuff. They're gonna the low quality stuff in these
That's what we get.
Right. I mean, that's not the main reason why you pray or you bless your food. The main reason that you pray over and you bless your food is because, again, all of this stuff is not ours. Right? This was given to us by the Most High. So we got to thank the Most High for the food and sustenance that we receive. Priority number one, right? So that we don't forget the Most High. That was one of the main things in the principles in the law that the Lord says, when you go and you start to eat the fat of the land, that you forget the Lord your God. He is the one that gave us these things. Right? So we got to be grateful for the things that we receive. So you thank the Most High that he got you to be able to eat that chicken and that steak and that macaroni and cheese or whatever's on that table. You thank the Most High, right? And in your thanking him in your prayer, you also ask him to bless that food, to nourish, so that it can be nourishable for you to eat, right? Because we know that we're not in these doggone factories and storehouses or slaughterhouses and things and knowing what the heck is. We're not at the farm to see what that animal looked like when it was alive, to see if anything happened to it or whatever, before it even got to the slaughterhouse, before it got to the market, before it got to our housing on our plate. We don't know, right? We're going on faith that the food is going to be nourishable and edible for us to eat. Right. So back in Deuteronomy 14, we have verse 22. One second. All right. So it says, thou shalt truly tithe all the increase of thy seed that the field bringeth forth year by year. Right. So this was the law that the Most High says that when we plant and we cultivate the land and we bring in the harvest, we're supposed to tithe, meaning give a 10th portion of what we bring in, all of our increase, what we now have received in. It's supposed to be given to the Most High, to the priests, right? Year by year, right? So now this was what our custom and our culture was aforetime when we was in the land, right? The predominant culture was we were either shepherds or we were farmers, right? Shepherds or farmers were the predominant occupation amongst Israel. Was it the only one? No, right? You had people who did other things, right? Who created swords and built certain things and built houses. They had other talents and skill sets, carpenters and so forth and so on, like Yahushua was when you read the New Testament. But for this had to be given back or given to the Most High, dedicated to the Most High by the hand of the priests, right? So now I remember, was it a couple weeks ago, a week or two ago, there was a discussion about Do you because we don't have that now? If you fast forward to today's time, as far as for in the cities in America, whether you're in the UK, you're in Europe, and you don't have that as an occupation, right? Do you not tithe anymore, right? But it now is transitioned to your increase, whatever you bring in, right? That's supposed to be a tenth. But the conversation was, do you do a tenth of your net or your gross? Right. I remember that was a discussion in the school. I wasn't here, but I remember that was talked about. Right. Okay. As far as for, how much of it do we tithe? Right. Mm-hmm. So I'll say this. I would say I side on the caution of whatever is given to you, whatever you've received or whatever you've earned. Right. So like if I go to work and I make $100, right, I get paid, I get in my hand $100, $10 out of that has to be a part of that type. Okay. Right? $10 because that's the net because that's what I received. Okay. Right? Now, in today's time, what happens is where the discussion is, you may say, hey, if I made an agreement with my employer that I'm supposed to make a certain amount of money an hour, or my salary is such and such, right? And I make a certain amount of money a year that's broken up into a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly pay stub. Whatever that is. And on your pay stub, you get the breakdown where it says this was your gross, right? And this is your net, right? So this is what you take home for you to do what you need to do with, right? Now, the discussion was, oh, well, you should tithe your gross, right? And some will say, well, gross, I ain't received the gross. From my perspective, if you want to tithe your gross, so be it. That's on you, right? But the net is what you actually receive in your bank, right? What you receive in your hand, what you're going to do something with. Right. But if you want to do your gross, that's on you. Do your gross. Because the reason why I say that the gross is kind of questioned because we know Esau takes taxes out of your pay, right? So if he says, listen, I'm going to give you $120, but then now he has $120 in his hand, and then he says, well, I'm going to take $20 for myself, right? For right now, I'm taking the 20, and I'm going to give you the 100. So then you give the $10 off of the 100. Now, later on, which will come up in about another couple of months, right? If you file your taxes, right? And you say, hey, I'm filing my taxes. I'm about to recoup some money based on how I'm filing. I'm going to get off of my child care. I'm going to get off of this. I'm going to get off because I can write this off of my company, my business. And now they give you a refund. You give a percentage of that to the Most High. You you tithe off of that. Okay. Right? Because now that has been a part of what has been taken out of your money. So if you're a weekly receiver of the money, and they were taking $20 out every time, and now that's built up, and now it's like, I don't know, I'm just estimating. I don't know what that is going to be, but now it's like $800 that they have sitting over here that they've received from you as a part of what they want. But then they give you back $450. Right? And your refund, because you've now proven that you can get back money for these different reasons, these different purposes. So now they give you back $450 and they keep the remaining $350 or whatever that is. Okay. Now you're going to have to give $45 out of that $450, which is a tenth of that. Okay. Right? Because now that kind of goes into what you should have gotten. If they gave it to you, you would have provided that. Right. But they held that off until you now came and you filed your taxes, and now they give you that additional refund money, then you do that. Some people don't get a refund. Some people wind up owing because they get all of their money up front. Right? Or whatever their situation is, however they go and they do their paperwork, they don't get no money back. They wind up sometimes owing the government. Right. Well, if you owe the government, then okay, you owe the government, right? You ain't paying 10% of what you owe the government. You now coming out your pockets and be like, dang, out of my $100 that I gotta now give them $11, right? Out of that money to now settle whatever debt I have with them, right? But again, the bottom line is you're definitely going to do your net. But if you choose to do your gross, that's on you, knowing that depending on how you do your taxes and how you do your balancing in your money, it may come back to you, it may not. That's on you. Net, definitely. Right? Good.
Although Esau is taking all this money from you, right? You know, you doing your 10%, and Esau is using all his money for all of that stuff, right? I just want to read 1 Samuel 8:15, right? 1 Samuel 8:15. And this is about the king that, first of all, we were given like 10% to the Levites, right? And I was cool. So now, since we asked for a king, are we going to get a king, right?
Mm-hmm.
It says, and he, this is the king, will take the tenth of your seed and of your vineyards and give to his officers and to his servants. So Esau is taking, whatever percentage they take from us to feed themselves and to run their government. Not just we giving our percentage to church and so on. So Esau is doing all of that on this other nations too.
Mm-hmm.
They're using that to feed themselves from it and to do whatever. If you read further on that. And even verse 17, it says, he will take the tenth of your sheep and he shall be his servants. And so they're using those your income from it to feed themselves.
Right. So this is added on to. So now I would say if you put it in that perspective, then it's even more than that, because the times when Israel was in captivity, we had to pay tribute to those who was ruling over us. Okay. In certain cases, we still had kings within our nation, right? So the kings still ruled under the authorship that we are now tributaries unto the authoritative nation, right? Whether it be the Babylonians or whoever, Syrians or whatever. We would now have a king. Well, not the Assyrians, but let's say during the Babylonian rule, right? You had certain kings who ruled, but were under the Babylonians, right? And then you say, okay, well, here the king is now going to fall under what we just read in 1 Samuel, the 8th chapter. They're going to have a tenth of this. They're going to have all the sheep, because our whole thing was we wanted to be like the other nations. Look, these nations got kings, and their kings look vainglorious. So we need to have a king that represents us. Right. Okay, if you want that king is going to be like this, but he's going to take this from you. He's going to take that from you. He's going to take that from you. People who you thought was your sons, now they ain't going out. They're going to now make them go work in the palace for the king. They're going to do this for the king. They're going to be working in his vineyards. So all that now has to be a part of his subjects that now tend to him. Then you now got to go and give the oppressor their tribute. So now you got to go take that money, take these animals, whatever that they wanted, you now have to give that to them as well, right? So it was like,
More money coming out.
It just went on top of.
One more thing, and even now, eminent domain. If they want to do something, run a railroad, through your house, they could just take it over and just use it for themselves.
Right. That's what they was just talking about. Was it yesterday or the day before when I was into the news? As they was talking about the so-called wall that Trump wanted to build, right? And it was talking about the wall, and throughout his presidency, that was throughout his campaign, that was the thing that he was preaching, that one of the primary things that he was going to do, or outside of healthcare, was the wall. He was going to go build this wall. He's going to build this wall. So they said that was going to be one of the things, or might be one of the things that they could be used in the upcoming primaries for the next candidate, for the next presidency, that they can go against him with, because they said, you promised this wall, but you haven't done the wall, right? But they said the problems with the wall is that down in certain areas where they would need to build a wall, like in Texas, it's a lot of private land, right? So they just can't easily go and just start building the wall on private property. So now they said that was what halted and stunted the growth. So now they had to go back to the courts to figure out how do they go and try to do an eminent domain on such a vast, wide area of property and land to be able to build this wall, right? So then they went into the discussion about, on one hand, they're saying, yeah, they have started building the wall, like the wall is being built. But that's a farce, because what they're saying is the only thing that they've done when they questioned the engineers on what was built, they said, yeah, we built about 70 miles of a wall, right? That, has been, so he could use that to lay claim, like, nah, we started doing this 70 miles, we built walls and da-da-da. And they said, well, hold on. Let's be clear. Is it 70 miles of new wall? And it was like, yeah, it's new wall that we built. And then it was like, okay, let's be clear. Is it 70 miles of new walls where there was never any wall there before? And they're like, no, we built over the old wall. Like, we repaired the old wall, but they ain't built anything new yet. Right. So it's semantics as what the people are saying. But when you dig and you ask pointed and specific questions about what has been done, they're like, nah, it's not no new wall. It's just, we just rebuilt the old one for now. But they can use that and say, yeah, we built the wall. We're building the wall and have been doing it, but they haven't done anything new. Yeah. So it's just like a good semantic game. But
If he was speaking like that on it, and he did that.
who Trump? I'm not sure. Let's see who that is. So we're going to continue on. How you doing, brother? What's your name? Carmelo. Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, good.
So we're in Deuteronomy, the 14th chapter and the 23rd verse now. It says, and thou shalt eat before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose to place his name there, the tithe of the corn, of the wine, of thine oil, and of the firstlings of the herds and of thy flocks, that thou mayest learn to fear the Lord thy God always. Right. Mm-hmm. So we know the place where the Lord to choose to put his name back then was the land of Israel in Jerusalem. Right. Jerusalem, Mount Zion, the city of David. That's what the Most High says he put his name there. Right. But then over time, what would happen is the children of Israel would then get sinful, and then the Lord would then scatter us into different nations so that we could not easily come back to the city of Jerusalem to keep holy days and feast days and things of that nature. Right. So I bring it up because that's one of the problems that we see with some of our brothers in certain groups, whereas they say because we don't have the temple or because we're not in Israel, we can't keep feast days anymore.
They don't keep.
Because what we're reading right now, it says the place that the Lord shall choose to place his name there. That's when you're supposed to go and eat the tithes of your increase, because there's a portion of it where you now gathered it and went back to Jerusalem and have like a festive and present yourself before him in the city, and then feast days.
Right.
But now Jerusalem is run by heathens. Right. It's not the people of the land that's supposed to be there. The temple is not even there. Right. So you don't even have the priesthood established, where if you did have land and you cultivated crops and you say, I wanted to go, you can't do that.
Right.
Because the infrastructure is not even set up. Oh. So now some will say, well, since that's not there, we don't keep those things anymore. And that's why when we keep each feast day, Feast of Tabernacles, so forth and so on, you'll see in the scriptures where it's reference of the children of Israel still keeping it wherever they are.
Oh, okay.
Right. Because it's a rehearsal, right? So you just don't want to do it, because now keep in mind, if the Most High is saying that he doesn't want us to follow after the customs of the other nations, because he gave us his custom, he gave us what he wanted us to follow and practice. Right. If we don't practice it, what are we left to do? You're going to do Christmas. Right. You're going to do Thanksgiving. You're going to do Halloween, right? Because you're not gathering for anything holy anyway now, because you can't keep it. Right. So now you're going to be more enticed to go and do those things. I remember somebody told me when we was telling them about you shouldn't be keeping these other holidays because it's not a part of our history, and a lot of it is pagan. Right. A treeing. What does that have to do with Christ? A log, right? Putting mask on your face to revere the evil dead gods and all that. What does that have to do with us? That stuff is wicked. So then a brother told me, he was like, well, that's the only time when we come together. If we don't have those days, then when are we going to come together as a family or as a group to celebrate and worship the Most High? So I said, touche, because the Most High does have holy days that we could come together and worship before and keep, right? And not only are these days holy days, but they are days that are historical, that relates to us. Right. It relates to our history, right? It's just not a day that's just made up that we come together. No, it has a historical reference and presence to it so that we can understand where we come from. These days, what is Valentine's Day? Most people don't know what the heck that history is, but you're going to go get a card, a chocolate, make a reservation, and get some. And you don't know where the origin of that is from.
Right.
You just know that some doggone baby flying in the air is throwing bows and arrows in the back of your back and making you fall in love with somebody. Right? So the history of some things that we follow is important, right? It's important to know your origins, important to know the history so that you can know whence you came from and where you're going.
Yeah, the things also, the first Passover we did in Egypt.
Right.
And also when we were wandering in the desert for 40 years, we did Passover, those feasts there, right?
Right.
Right.
And also Ezekiel 11, verse 16.
Ezekiel.
Yeah, Ezekiel chapter 11, verse 16. It says, therefore say, thus said the Lord God, although I have cast them far off among the heathen, and although I have scattered them among the countries, yet will I be to them as a little sanctuary in the countries where they shall come.
Right.
Yeah,
So
Ezekiel what?
Ezekiel 11:16. So although they say like in captivity, we still celebrate our feast days.
Right.
You know, whatever country we were in, we didn't, do what they do.
Right. Right. So him being a little sanctuary means that he's going to be here as a presence wherever we at. Right. You got some of us here in Philly. You got some in New York. You got some in Cali. You got some in Jamaica. You got some in the Netherlands. You got some in Brussels. You got some all over the place that are doing the same thing. And guess what? The Most High is a little sanctuary to them everywhere. Where two or more are gathered, Christ said, I'm in the midst. So we all now feel that vibe and that presence of following after the Most High's ways according to Scripture. Right? That's kind of how the Lord wants us. And we rehearse righteous acts, not rehearse wicked acts. Right. That's our problem. We latch on to everything else but what the Lord says to do. Right. It's a bad energy and vibration that's just prevalent that seduces us or entices us to think that sin is good. Right. To think that doing the wrong thing is okay. Like I mentioned earlier in the beginning of the last class chapter, that you can see it in the things that we project, that it has become the common thing to do the wrong thing, that most people appear that has no consequence, right? There's no consequence to some of the actions that we do. So it's okay, right? Because it's not dealt with right away. And Most High talks about that. So let's go back again. Deuteronomy 14, I'm gonna read 23 again. And thou shalt eat before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose to place his name there, Jerusalem, to the tithe of corn, of wine, of thine oil, and of the firstlings of thy herds and of thy flocks, that thou mayest learn to fear the Lord thy God. So you brought your cattle, you brought your crops, right, as a tenth to the Lord. 24. And if the way be too long for thee, so that thou art not able to carry it, or if the place be too far from thee, which the Lord thy God shall choose to set his name there, when the Lord thy God have blessed thee, right? So now we know that it's something that we're supposed to do, but that's a long journey, right? To bring all this crops, to bring the cattle, I know where Jerusalem is, but from where I'm at, man, that's a long journey to haul all this stuff, right? So the Lord is like, if the way be too long for you, where I'm going to choose to place my name. Now, remember, this is in Deuteronomy. This is still in the wilderness, right? The Most High hadn't chosen a place. We know now, because it's history to us, that later on during the time of David, that he was going to choose Jerusalem, right? And that was going to be it. But this is now using that even when that happens, I'm taking care of it. Let me tell you what you should do. It says in verse 25, then shalt thou turn it into money and bind up the money in thine hand, and shall go unto the place which the Lord thy God shall choose. And thou shalt bestow that money for whatsoever thy soul lusteth after, for oxen, for sheep, and for wine, or for strong drink, or for whatever thy soul desireth. And thou shalt eat there before the Lord thy God, and thou shalt rejoice, thou and thine household. So this portion of the tithe that the Most High was requiring, he wants you to bring it, and then you're going to enjoy there in Jerusalem, in the homeland, right? It wasn't that you was going to keep everything wherever you at, right? Sometimes you may be in a far off country. That's where you're dwelling. But you was going to always have to come back to home base, right? You was going to come back at some point in time to now take your tithe and then eat it and enjoy it there. So what you thought you was going to bring to eat there, if it's too hard for you to bring it, change it for money. Go and sell it and say, okay, here, this goat is worth about 15 shekels, right? For one goat, I got about 20 goats. That's about 120 shekels. I got about so much corn. I got so much fruit. You know what? All right, boom, here. Now I got about 400 shekels, right? So me and my family, my kindred, we going to Jerusalem. So now you get there. And now the Most High says, well, now that you've now changed it to money, you can now use it for whatever your soul lusteth after while you're in Jerusalem. So now you said, I had some oxen, but now I really want some sheep, right? Now you go and you get sheep and then you eat it and enjoy it there, or whatever different types of crops. You get it and consume it and eat it and enjoy it there. Right? So when we came, it wasn't just always just to pass through. We came to enjoy. Now, I can look, and off the top of my mind, you know, sometimes when I see how some of the other nations use our history and paralleled it to their own, right? So you got Muslims who say that they got to make a Hajj to Mecca once a year. Right. And they call it, it's another name. They make a Hajj, but it's something else that they do. I forget the name. It's on the tip of my tongue. But they go to Mecca, right? And it's something that, it's an event when they go, right? If you understand that thing, you go there, you know, they do the idol worship, walking around the cobblestone, and they bow down in the cobblestone, which in the scriptures say you're not supposed to do. But they also make it an event that they now, you know, have a festive occasion being in the city, right? So here the Most High had it where it wasn't dealing with idol worship. This was what now coming and now enjoying your tithe in the place where the Most High was going to choose, which was Jerusalem. So we had his favorite city in the earth, right? The Most High's favorite place in the earth is Israel. That's the Garden of Eden. That's the mother of us all when you read it in Galatians. Man, Adam and Eve started there, not in Africa. That's what they tell you. I get it. But if you base your faith on the Most High's record, then you're going to follow it as it is written. And the Most High says Jerusalem is the mother of us all. Of us all, right? So if Adam and Eve were there, that meant Ham, Shem, and Japheth, which are the progenitors of all nations on the planet Earth, they all come from that same area. They all come or started or originated in Israel. Yeah, man, I say, yeah, I found the first bones, the oldest bones, and it's about 100 million years old, found in this place in this region here in Africa, right? Now, we know archaeologists, they always forever finding something new, right? I've seen they found hundreds of new species in the bottom of the ocean somewhere. The farthest that they can go, they found some new species that man had never seen before. So now what happens 2 years from now, 3 months from now, they come back and they say, look, we found some new bones under this building that was excavated about 20 years ago. We went and dug down further and we found bones that's 200 million years old. So we've now found the oldest bones and it's here. Why do we have to wait and rely on what man say and not rely or trust what the Most High said, right? That's the difference. So sometimes we trust in man and science over God, right? And the Most High sees it, right? You're waiting, and man switches up their science or their theories about certain things here and there. They change, and now, okay, it was this before, now we don't change it to this. And now you got to be tossed to and fro, following after the new thing that they're talking about and staying constant with the Most High. All right, back in, I'm gonna read 26 again. And thou shalt bestow thy money, that money, for whatsoever thy soul lusteth after, for oxen or for wine or for strong drink, or for whatsoever thy soul desireth. And thou shalt eat there before the Lord thy God, and thou shalt rejoice, thou and thine whole household, right? So it's supposed to be a festive occasion to go back to the homeland, bring your food or bring the money to buy or get whatever you need to do to enjoy yourself there in Jerusalem, right? So that's something that Israel had to do, periodically. Like I said, that's why I parallel it to what the Muslims do. The Muslims say that you want once in your life, you got to make that Hajj to Mecca, right? This wasn't just a once in your life thing, right? This was something that was done annually, that you had to make that trip back to Jerusalem at some point. Now, and this is outside of just the feast days, right? Because when you read in Acts, the second chapter, you see when the Pentecost, or Feast of Weeks, was kept, it had men coming out of every nation under heaven speaking different languages to keep the Feast of Weeks or Pentecost there in Jerusalem, right? Because they know that's where the Most High put his name there, and you came back to that region. So you always had that interaction with home base, which was the city of David, Mount Zion, or the Lord's chosen place. Verse 27, and the Levite that is within thy gates shall not forsake him, for he have no part nor inheritance with thee. So the Levites also had to receive their tenth, because the tenth was given to the Levites. They didn't have cities. The Most High put them in suburbs throughout the different lots of land that the Most High gave Israel. So they didn't have a land of their own. They didn't have property of their own that they can go and produce crops or have cattle. What they received, they got from the other tribes. So we were not supposed to forsake them. So we had to consider that what we were bringing was for that tribe to be able to enjoy, for that tribe to be able to receive, because they didn't have their own. You're not going to find the tribe of Levi dwelt in this section of land. It didn't have that. Right. Everyone else had it, but except for them, because the Most High separated them out of the 12 tribes. Same way how the Most High separated Israel from all nations. He separated one tribe from the rest of the tribe to do service for him. Right? So they now have to be looked after or cared for in a manner that's going to sustain them with food, clothing, and things of that nature that was going to come from Israel, or the other tribes, I should say. Verse 28, it says, at the end of 3 years, thou shalt bring forth all the tithe of thine increase the same year, and shalt lay it up within thy gates. Levite, because he have no part nor inheritance with thee, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow, which are within thy gates, shall come and shall eat and be satisfied, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all the work of thine hand which thou doest. So this was another tithe, or a separate thing that was specifically for Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, the widows, that even was talking about how perfect the law of the Most High is. It covers all the bases. It takes care of everything that needs to be taken care of. It's a perfect system. Economically, it's a perfect system, right? I don't want to say religiously, but ceremoniously, perfect system specifically for us. Then we look at issues of the poor. The Most High already had things set up to handle and deal with the poor, right? Where those who had set certain things aside and then came and provided that for them, that they can now have their own thing that they can enjoy and partake of there in the city, where the Most High is now not forgetting them. Where right now in a lot of major cities and certain places, the poor is forgotten, the elderly is forgotten, right? They just left to the side. They got to fend for themselves, sitting down in certain places, getting the last or the pieces of the scrums or the scraps. Right. Where the Most High said, no. Even when you get your fields, don't reap the corners. Leave that for the poor, right? Everything else you can take, sell, eat, consume, whatever. But they're going to get that for themselves because they don't have. Right? And then if you come in and now enjoying eating whatever you want to eat in Jerusalem, let them do theirs too. They're going to come and be able to eat and consume and enjoy those things that you're going to provide for them. Right? So the Lord looks at every nook and cranny. It's not something that's not left unturned when you could say a situation happens and you scratching your head and was like, yo, how are we going to deal with this? And now you got to come up with a new law. Nah, you ain't got to come up with a new law. Everything is already here. Everything is already established and set in place for us to follow after according to the Most High's will, right? Again, so that goes into different forms of tithing and how we went about providing it to the Levites, providing it to those who don't have, and as well as enjoying it and eating it within the homeland or the place of the Most High set up. All right. So that is the end of the 14th chapter. That is the end of the service.
Right.
Next week, let me see. Bear with me. Next week, we will be in the book of John, the 7th and 8th chapters. St. John 7 and 8. Damn. It's a lot here.
Like here.
There's a lot in there. Yeah. So St. John 7 and 8, depending on who's going to do it, we should start and make sure we try to start again 10 o'clock. Yeah. Get it all in. It's a lot to talk about in those verses. All right. So with that, we're going to close out today's Sabbath service lesson. Most High's will, everybody was able to receive and understand the information brought out. If not, make sure you write down your questions. Sometimes you should have a certain section. I know a lot of times people say, oh, I had it, I forgot. I didn't write it down. Write it down in a certain section in your notebook, right? Have a page or a section that's just geared for questions or topics or whatever that you want to go over or go back into. And then once it's done, you can cross it out. So it's just one area that you know is going to be there instead of just writing it randomly in different pieces of Post-it notes and papers and then you can't find it anymore. Get a notebook and have a page, questions, clarity, whatever, and then write them all down and then bring it to the classes on Tuesdays and Fridays and we can go into it more in depth when it's not centered around the Sabbath service. All right. So we want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High in Christ for knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Lord's will, everybody is in good spirits. Lord's will, everybody has a remaining good Tawab and true Sabbath day. And Most High's will, we'll see or hear each other during the upcoming classes Tuesdays and Fridays night. All right. So with that, stay tuned for the closing prayers. And again, Shalom or peace to the brothers and sisters in Israel. I'm going over the regular. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Natalanawa, Paria Hagapin, Thawada Amun, La Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Ath Yasha Allah. So that was Hebrew in the English translation. It says, blessed are you, Most High, in the name of Jesus or Christ that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To the Most High, in the name of Christ with Israel. A Madra Punyaroy Jerusalem stand and face Jerusalem. All right. Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Bahasham.
Bahasham.
Yahweh Shai.
Yahweh Shai.
Baba Kushai.
Yahweh Shai.
Shammai.
Shammai.
Lanawa.
Lanawa.
Aitha.
Aitha.
Yum Yun.
Yum Yum.
Aitha.
Aitha.
Shalat.
Shalat.
Maika Allah.
Ma'aka'ala.
Waha Allahayim.
Wa'alahayim.
Tazwadakim.
Tazwadakim.
La.
La.
Shemal Ayel.
Shema'ai.
Barak.
Barak.
Rapah.
Ra.
Magun.
Magan.
Wahakaziyat.
Wa'akaziyah.
Bunya.
Banya.
Yasha Allah.
Yasha'ala.
Washalat.
Washalat.
Lanawa.
Lanawa.
Rabiam.
Rabi.
Kakama.
Kakama.
Rabiam.
Rabi.
Da'ai.
Da'ai.
Rabiam.
Rabi.
Bayana.
Bayana.
Rabiam.
Rabi.
Sabalanwa.
Sabalama.
Rabiam.
Rabi.
Amawan.
Amawan.
Rabiam.
Rabi.
Aqua.
Aqua.
Rabiam.
Rabi.
Ahabiam.
Ahabi.
Rabiam.
Rabi.
Haganah.
Haganah.
Rakhanaya.
Rabanah.
Wasalat.
Wasalat.
Ko.
Ko.
Kata Ayamnawa.
Wasalimna.
Laha Akim.
Wa'aki.
Wa'akiwa.
Wa'aki.
Wayash Allah.
Wa'asha'ala.
From Yad.
Yah.
Wa'iwalam.
Wa'alam.
Bahasham.
Wa'asham.
Yahushai.
Wa'asham.
So Wada.
Water.
Aman.
Amen.
English translation. Most High, in the name of Christ, please listen to us now, right now. Send Michael and the righteous powers of angels to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection, and forgive all our sins for the brothers and sisters in Israel, always and forever. In the name of Christ, thank you, so be it. Four Corners Prayer. Yahweh,
Yahweh.
Bahasham,
Bahasham.
Yahweh Shai,
Yahweh Shai.
Barak Nawa,
Rabanah.
Wayasha Allah,
Wa'asha'ala.
Wabatya Saparium,
Wa'akaziyah.
Shema Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allah Hainawa, Yahweh, Akkad. English translation. Most High, in the name of Christ, bless us and Israel in the house of books or schools. And Deuteronomy 6:4, hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one power. All right, with that, we say again, Shalom, Yasharallah, or peace to all the brothers and sisters in Israel. Most High's will, we'll see or hear each other next week. Shalom.
Shalom.